hope you all are doing well. I wanted to talk a little bit about the current energies that are going on. I actually had the thought of making a video last Friday because I was waking up feeling these energies, and the way I was experiencing them was as if all these things were taking place behind a closed door. So I had this sense of feeling this agitation, right? This anger, this frustration. It was like these waves of just aggressive energy. But also feeling like I was experiencing it as an observer. So it wasn't particularly anything that was going on in my life, but just really like it was really calling my attention. And I didn't make a video because I was unsure, right, of like what all this was and why was I even feeling it, because I didn't feel like it was part of what I was really going through. I ended up talking to someone later and basically was recalling kind of the same experience with these energies, like what is going on with this anger kind of flaring up. And so I realized I probably should have made a video so I wasn't following my own intuition. I'm going through a little bit of like a reordering again, like where do I put my energy in all of this, and what do I do to best serve and to assist, through everything that's happening right now. So I apologize for not doing that. Thought about doing it yesterday then, but yesterday there was a big lift in the field, right? This incredible energy was coming through, and it was just so full of this love and so expansive. And I thought, okay, well, I'm not going to make a video talking about all this horrible energy I've been feeling on a day like this, But so fast forward to today, which started out okay, but again, the same really, really intense, it's like this primordial darkness is what it feels like to me. And really hanging out in the roots. So these feelings of, I'll just express the way it came through to me, right? And it was not that I'm necessarily experiencing any events in my life that are going along with this, but when I was feeling this energy coming through, it very much was this feeling of, and it's very tied to the sexual energies. I have to say that, which I think is a little bit confusing, but just bear with me and hopefully we can figure this out. But the feelings that were coming up was this anger at, really this rage, right? And at first it was hard to identify because it's like, where is this coming from? It felt very sexual. It felt very, and of course, right, sexuality, everything about it has been distorted, right? So we think about what that kind of means in our society. It's about this release. We know sexuality and the act of sex can be used in really horrific ways, right? People tend to see it as an expression of release. It's like you have this overwhelming urge and you tend to these desires that you're experiencing, and then afterwards it's like, okay, I feel better, I've released that out, right? So we tend to follow this energy in this area of the body, in these root areas, and think that, oh, I'm feeling these feelings and this is what I have to do. This is the only way that I know to be able to release out these energies. And I think it's coming up right now for a little bit of calling out, like, as humans, we have been programmed to believe that when we feel these things, right, we go to it and we say, well, this is what I need, this is what it is, without kind of taking a step back, right? And that this is the passage that we're in right now, is really feeling what is this energy actually tied to. But really what's underneath this anger and this frustration is this feeling of, I'm not being heard and I'm not being seen and I'm really fucking pissed off about it. I've had enough of it, right? It's like lifetime after lifetime after lifetime I have been feeling this frustration and this anger, and I'm not being seen for who I am, right? I'm being seen as something else. And knowing that we're in this point right now, right, where we're being called very deeply to step up into our missions and into our work and to kind of expose ourselves in very different ways than we have prior to the time, like in this lifetime, right? So it's a very important kind of passage and turning point for a lot of, I'll just call it star energy, right? These galactic energies that are here to serve in very different ways than we have experienced on this planet in the past. So this energy that has been it's been flaring over this last week. And I think we've been getting a sense of this, right? Today it kind of came to this boiling point of like, what is this and what is not being acknowledged, right? So, and of course, as you feel these energies, you're going to start to put all these kinds of things on it, like, oh, is it about this? Like, I'm having this huge frustration. It's, I'm thinking about all the times where I was taken advantage of, and especially when it comes to relationships and sex and sensuality, that can be a trigger for many, many people, right? Because, of course, based on the programs and the conditioning and the systems of control, we have been engaging in all of these things. And it's not just sex, right? It's everything that is tied to distortion, right? And so we see things really not as they were intended to exist here on this planet. So all that being said, if you are experiencing this, to me, it's a primordial rage, right? It's coming from the belly, it's coming from the womb, it's coming from this place deep, deep in the roots, deeply rooted into the earth. And it's really this cry of, it just makes me want to cry, right? It's this, stop trapping me, right? Stop trying to contain me in something that I am not. And so often when we think about intimacy with another person, right, especially for the feminine, it's very hard to engage in that kind of relationship because it is so emotional for us. It is very much about bearing our souls, right? It's very difficult to engage, and of course we can, right? We can shut many things down and do that, no problem. But at the root of it is that this is me bearing my soul. This is me opening up to you and showing you who I am, right, in a very intimate way. And that's what this represents. And so it's not about the act of sex right now that that is getting cleared out, right? But it's these emotions and these things that we're tapping into is very much about exposing who we are, opening up to the world and showing the world who we are, right? Without all of this programming and conditioning and really this containment, right, that we've been placed into. So it's incredibly, it's actually very scary energy, I have to say, because it has this feeling of like, I don't even know where this is coming from because it's welling up inside of me. And it is like, it's this process that I can only compare to labor, right? When you are giving birth, because this biological process overtakes your body, you have absolutely no control over it, right? The chemicals are kicking in and it's doing its thing. It's doing what nature needs it to do. And so there's no stopping it. We have to go with it, right? But it's also incredibly scary because we have no control over it. And so it's the same kind of like, we are birthing, but we're birthing in this incredibly scary way because we're having to move through everything that has previously obstructed this light from coming in, right? So it's like this golden sphere of energy that is pushing through this sticky black darkness, right? And it's just incredibly immersed. It's this immersion into this space that we just really, it's almost as if we've never been so deeply in touch with these energies before. So I think that's really all I want to say about this right now. But again, just to put this out there, and if this is something you're experiencing, to know that these things are these systems are being dismantled, right? So I know everyone is like, okay, when are the systems going to fall, and when are we going to be able to step into our light and uptake our mission and start to do all these things, right? We know that everything happens energetically first before we see it in the physical. So to keep in mind, right, we are energetically experiencing the dismantling of these controlling energies, right? And so I've always said it's not about disclosure, like on a collective level or out in the media, right? It's about self-disclosure first. So how are you experiencing these energies? What is it calling up for you? And what does it mean for you? How are you going to move through this, right? So, and of course, we have to experience the energy of it first before we will see that clearing and like proof of that in the physical, right? So this knowing that this is natural, right? This is part of the process. This is what's happening right now. And so that makes sense, right? That we would experience it within the body before we understand fully what is physically manifesting in our 3D reality. So the other thing about that is also these waves of energy that come in, right? And I feel like I'm repeating and preaching to the choir, but that's what these waves are doing, right? They're so there's this sense of this energy that's being pulled out, right? But there's also this incredible high frequency energy that is coming in, thank goodness, to balance this out, right? Because if we were only experiencing this kind of underworld energy right now, we'd be losing our minds completely. So, and maybe some people are, I don't know, but it's super intense. So thank goodness we do have the light that's coming in, the light that we do have coming in, right? So to know that we don't have to sit in this stuff that we're feeling, it's to acknowledge and say, okay, this is where it's showing up for me. Is there anything else that I need to address in terms of this? But to know that we can also connect in, it's like, let's, clear that out and connect into the light again and recalibrate and to continue moving forward. The fact that we're experiencing this doesn't mean that the world, of course, this is crazy to say, right? It doesn't mean the world is falling apart and collapsing around us. It feels that way, but this is clearing, this is purging, this is dismantling of the system. So to know that this is what we were built for, this is what we are here for, this is what we are here to do, to take all of the tools that we have to put them into play right now in this moment is particularly important because the amount of pressure on the fields right now is incredible. From both directions, energy coming in, energy going out, and then the mix of all that kind of chaos almost that we can feel. So I hope that makes sense. And I hesitate to talk about these things sometimes because I know that, we use our words and it's very easy to influence people, right? To kind of, if you weren't experiencing this before, or if maybe it isn't the exact thing that you're going through, right? This is how I'm experiencing it. I know a lot of this is collective though, so I know a lot of people are feeling this as well. What I do hope is that people don't just take these videos and say, okay, that makes sense, I feel better now, and I'm gonna just move on and forget it. That we do have to take the time to go internal. Something that I experienced last week, because it was the Thanksgiving holiday here, my kids were home for a few extra days, and we were just chilling, right? We were just doing a lot of hanging out, and so my daughter uses my computer because she does a lot of digital art, so I was not working as much as I normally do, and what I noticed after about probably 2 days, right? But by the third, fourth day, I was out of my freaking mind, losing it, just feeling completely shaken almost. And it was a good experience because it was almost me proving to myself, like, you cannot go one day without running energy, without being in the flow of the light, without connecting to source light. It really, I used to think, and it's always interesting how this comes through, because we have these ideas about how this process works, right? And I know I've heard in the past, right, about beings who live just on light, and what is it like when we become the light body? Like, do we start to glow and shimmer and all these kinds of things? And I know I've seen people, talk about having that experience and that's happening to them, but the way that I experience it is, and what I was thinking about the other day was like, oh my God, I really do live on light, because without connecting in to the source energy, without connecting in to this energy of who I really am, I could not function. I was exhausted. I was in pain. I felt out of it and incapable of like making decisions even. So to say that I live on light is a very true statement, but it's not that I go out in the sun and I just absorb and that's how my body biologically is processing everything right now, right? Like I don't need food or water anymore. That's not what I'm saying, but yet that idea of like I run on light is extremely true, because I cannot function without going internal and connecting to that light anymore. So that was, it sounds simple. For me, it was an extremely profound experience to recognize that for myself. And once I did, I finally forced myself, okay, I gotta go and I gotta do this. And it was like, it was this relief of like, thank God you're addressing this, right? I could just feel it all start to kind of pour out of my field, all this stuff that had built up around me. So if you're not already utilizing some kind of daily practice to connect into your own light, to release out what's kind of built up around you, that is going to become more and more imperative as we move forward, right? I just don't see how you can get around that at this point. Even so, and that was the other thing too, was that, because I was having this agitation in my field, it was like, okay, I'm going to go for walks. Like I was going out, I was doing the crystal thing, I was doing the herb thing, and like none of that was helping. And all I needed to do was to go sit and run the energy, right? To clear out my field, to bring in what was coming in, and to sit in that. And it was like instantaneous. And I have to admit, I was a little bit shocked at how, number one, easy it was. Number two, like, wow, how easy it was to avoid also, right? And to think that I don't really need to do this anymore, because I've kind of struggled with like, I really just want to get that job and I don't want to do this work so much. And it was like, wow, if I had the 9-to-5 job and then I come home with all of that and then I still had to do the energy, like there's no way I would be dead. I wouldn't be able to do it. So, and we all have our levels, right? To the degree that we're doing this work at this time. And it's not to say that everyone needs to do that. And it's not that I need to spend 24 hours a day running the energy, but it needs to be this integral part, this priority in my life. And I think a part of me has always been kind of disrespecting that. Yes, I do this work. Yes, I have these skills and whatever, but there has been this like very undisciplined action on my part, so that was shocking. That was eye-opening. But to know moving forward, right, even for me, like, oh my gosh, we need to step this up a little bit here because this is really super intense. And this is just the beginning of these energies kind of, these systems collapsing. So, okay, one other thing I want to say. I had a dream that I was on the ship in the middle of a storm. And I was extremely agitated because someone was trying to call me on my cell phone, which, in the middle of the ocean, like, okay, maybe, but it's like there was all this interference coming through. And so I was just kind of annoyed, and it wasn't really agitation or anger. It was just more of an annoyance. Like, why are you even trying to call me? Because I'm in the middle of this storm right now. Like, it's just not going to work. But there was this kind of urgency to getting this communication through. So I was having to take like the bits and pieces that I had heard, and some other things. But after I woke up, I realized like the images in that dream it was the image of this ship, right? It was one of those big, like with the big mast, like a sailboat, but like a very huge, sorry, there was some knocking up there, a very huge old ship, it reminded me of those trading routes, where they pile all of these expensive items to take, right? And you're exchanging these gifts, these things of value, right? So it's preparation for this exchange of valuables. And don't know, it's interesting because it was not coming through exactly that way, and it's making me a little emotional as I think about this. But the point was, during the day it came to me, they were speaking about where is the safest place for a ship during a storm, and it's out in the water, it's out in the middle of the ocean or in the middle of the sea. It's not being tethered in the harbor, because what happens if the storm comes and hits the harbor, right? The places where you are tethered gets ripped out, it gets broken, it gets destroyed at that connection. So wherever we are holding very tightly to ideas, experiences, ideas about the way things should be, right? Wherever we're trying to hold on to this idea of control within ourselves, within our field, that is where we are going to get ripped to pieces, right? We're going to get shredded through our field. So extremely important to be out in the water, in the flow, allowing our ship to kind of move with the waves, right? Of course, we're going to dodge the eye of the storm if at all possible, right? We're going to avoid that storm. We're going to maneuver. We're going to see it coming, and we're going to go in the opposite direction, right? Which is a lot of what these energies are. It's like you can feel it. Okay, don't go there and engage, right? We don't need to do that right now. Or ever again, hopefully, But it was really another profound thing. It's like the safest place during a storm is to be out at sea, which feels totally counterintuitive, right? We just want to be on land off that boat, but that's not where we're at right now. So, all right. I hope that helped clear up things a little bit for people. As I'm feeling this energy in my heart, it's very overwhelming. And I just, I want to send so much love and compassion to all of you. This is by far, I think, the hardest thing, most of us have had to do in this lifetime, to release out of these old systems and this programming, and to step into the new, which is completely uncharted territory, right? We have no idea where we're going or how this is really going to play out. So we're having to step out in faith, without a roadmap, without really knowing what's going to be on the other side of this. So I send you so much love and compassion. I just want to thank you for all of the support and the emails and the donations. It's really been, it's been an interesting journey for myself. I know, over this last year for me, it's really been about my transition into this work. I'm looking forward to, obviously always stepping more fully into this, as are all of us. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week, and we will talk soon. Take good care.